at all. The exception to that is if you can patent a process as opposed to a product, you may have something. Because a process is, I'll give you an example. So a process is where something does something and means blah, and you actually have the unique universal right to that. So a couple of years ago, we worked with a company for a period of time, and they've invented, let's call it a foam that when sprayed on a, solar panel that sits up on your roof, like one of the electrical solar panels, which I know are very prevalent, basically causes the solar panel to shut down instantaneously, within 10 seconds or so. Because what it actually does, it blocks out the sunlight. So even on a baking hot day in Melbourne when it's 42 degrees and we all want to go home, and you spray that on, within a few seconds it actually shuts the whole thing down. Now why is that important? Because say your house is on fire, emergency workers are coming out and they want to extinguish the fire. If they point their hose at your solar panel, someone dies. Because this thing has enough power to kill a fireman instantly. Not kidding. So imagine now we go up there, we just spray this thing, it now shuts down, it's now safe to extinguish the fire. It is policy, if they come out and they see a solar panel on your roof, they will possibly refuse to extinguish the fire in your house. Because it's a safety risk. We can't risk them. The first rule of any emergency service is we've got to preserve our room at all costs. Right? Oops. So these guys got a patent, not for the thing that's in the canister, no, but for any substance when applied to a solar panel causes it to shut down. Can you hear the power in that? So if you and I invented a banana peel and we can switch that on a solar panel, we're not contravening the patent. That one is hard to circumvent, isn't it?
That's useful then if you do change a recipe or you
pivot.
Indeed. And you know what is,
valid.
this is the best thing you could possibly accept. So we started working with them in the due diligence process and we said, well, you've got a problem because where are you getting this stuff from? This goop that's in the, we choose to call it goop, secret formula obviously. Oh yeah, we can only get that from one supplier in the world. We go, really? Yeah, it's these guys in the UK, they're the only ones in the world that supply this to this specification. We go, that's a problem. Because what if they get wind of how successful you are, they're going to just multiply your buy price by 10 and you don't have a business anymore. They went like, oops. So they actually went to the CSIRO and said, we want something that works like this, don't need to look at the formula, but acts like this, is even better than what it was before, has even faster acting, even more biodegradable properties. Can you do that? It took them, I don't know, 6 months to develop that. They came back, they now road tested out, they got certified, and so indeed, they now put different colour goop inside the same bottle. They patent them colours. Brilliant, isn't it? But it's really, really, really hard to get one of those patents for obvious reasons. Because it's a bit like, I've just patented the process how to make lasagna. Well, we'll just think about that one for a moment, shall we? Wow, but if you can get it, it is very, very valuable. So we've got several clients we've helped over the last couple of years that actually hold that style of process patent, where it's not about the software, it's not about the gizmo, it's not about the weird hardware device, it's actually about the fact that if you do this in this kind of style, then this is what we have protected. Thank you. So if you can imagine that it's harder to get, but if you can get it, it is
Gold.
gold, absolutely. And it is definitely worth asset value.
Costs more as well?
Costs more as well. Rough estimate, they spend between $250,000 and $500,000 securing this globally.
Huh.
Sorry, but don't you have to also secure the patent in different jurisdictions?
You do, absolutely. This is a global patent.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the kind of cost to go global in this kind of field. Because in some cases you need to have different kinds of labels of proof in different jurisdictions. US, generally speaking, is easy, not a drama. Europe, oh, don't even get me started. Germans are not nice to deal with in this context, sorry. But generally Germany, it controls this style of patent in Europe. And it's a bit like if you can get it through in Germany, then it just holds. And so that's why Germany at the end of the day has to sway in these kind of things, not because they are special. But it's sort of just convention. So, almost at the end, my place or yours? So what often happens in commercial relationships is you've got your terms, they got their terms, and no one really figures out, well, which ones are actually the terms that we agreed on. So if there's a dispute later on, we've got two contracts. This is my supply contract, this is my delivery contract, and this one says Victoria, this one says New South Wales, this one says 30 days, this one says 90 days. Ugh. Lots of loopholes to make the lawyers very happy, right? There's lots of litigation opportunity in that. Not a good way to go. Something that is very interesting is place of jurisdiction. A very interesting personal experience in this. So many years ago, I sunk a company because I overlooked place of jurisdiction. I signed a contract with a very big US entity, and we were a relatively small Australian entity, and it was a very lucrative contract. Had it checked, looked all right, except one little clause that I'd overlooked. Well, that one little clause was the fact that it had basically, that they had a right to basically change the venue. What that means in layman's terms, if I sue them in California and they're not happy with the outcome, they can change that to Nevada. If they're not happy with the outcome in Nevada, they can change to Delaware. And we can chase them around 52 courts across the United States.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no way we'd ever have money to even do through 3 lots of courts. It's just not possible. So because that little clause was in there, we ended up in a situation where it's basically a direct breach of contract. I called up my lawyer, who's also a friend. I said, hey, this is what happened. Really not sure what to do, what's your advice? And he called me back a day or two later and says, Mike, did you read that fine print on page 22? I was like, yeah, sure, I saw that. What's that mean? He says, this is what it means. We have a problem. He says, yeah, you have a problem. I think you should go back and negotiate. I said, okay, thanks for that advice. Luckily, he's a very good lawyer, he's very friendly, but it's just like, oh bother. I just never thought about that's really what's the consequence of that. But see, you've got to be aware of these kind of things. The other thing to work, when you think about in contracts, and you will all be subjected to lots of contracts, either you're issuing or you're party to where somebody else is issuing. The biggest problem with any contract is not what is in the contract. The biggest problem is what is not in the contract. Because you've got to see the unseen. You've got to read through, and it looks like, we cover this, we cover that, we're taking care of everything. And you will often find holes in a contract. Some cases, those holes were not there deliberately because it's just an oversight on the other party's behalf. Sometimes they are actually there deliberately. Right. In many cases, when you're dealing with a contract with some other party, it's a compromise. Just get over it, get on with it. This is business. We're here to compromise. This is not the government, except in your case. Term sheets, special mention. So anyone's ever heard about term sheets? So term sheet is a very technical term for a piece of paper that says, these are my terms. I will give you this money if you do this. So term sheets are commonly used by venture capital firms or other large investment firms. Per se, there isn't anything wrong with a term sheet. There doesn't have to be anything onerous about a term sheet. However, in many cases, there is something very onerous about a lot of term sheets. So it would take us another 2 hours to go through all the weird and wonderful things that can be in a term sheet. But you've got to think about the investment firm, generally speaking, is trying to protect themselves when things go pear-shaped. So things that go pear-shaped could be that you don't deliver on performance you promised. Okay, what are they going to do? We need to take the company away. It could be that we have a shareholder dilution, but they don't want to be diluted, etc., etc., etc. So the term sheets can have all sorts of flavors and shapes. And again, guess what? See the other way out. Now, you're probably not going to face the term sheet in the next few weeks unless you're running over to a VC tomorrow morning. But as you go further into investment game, particularly after you raise some seed capital, you get to some more professional level, you want to raise $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it might be, you will often see a term sheet. So per se, there's nothing wrong with a term sheet because it's just a contract that says, these are our terms we're entering into this agreement. And in that way, it's actually a good thing. And the term sheets, in many cases, will coexist happily with your shareholders' agreement, but will sit alongside that and add additional clauses. So just think that through very carefully. And it's a bit like, if there are items in the term sheet that you're not happy with when it's presented to you, there's nothing wrong with going back to whatever that investment firm or VC firm is and say, look, I'm happy with 1, 2, 3, and 17, but number 2 and 5 is like, sorry, but can we change that? And in many cases, you'll find that they might actually be happy to change that. Because you've got to remember that they've just given you whatever their lawyer gave them as a template. That doesn't mean they're not negotiable. If you got a deal that is a deal of the century, if you got a company that is freaking amazing, they probably want to invest. Hold that up your sleeve and be ready to walk away from the deal. That's what we already talked about, I think, all that was.
Just on
Yep.
retention,